One of the most important qualities a missionary must have is flexibility, to go with the flow of God's leading and direction in life and ministry. Accepting and adapting to changing circumstances is essential to finding your place and purpose in God's unfolding plan. Even when we commit our plans to the Lord and pray for His blessing and favor, He may have other plans for us and point us in a completely different direction. When our ministry and life's work in Cadereyta in northern Mexico came to a close in God's providence, it was a tragic blow to us, and we suddenly found ourselves without a mission field. Around that time, we attended a retreat for missionaries to Latin America, where we met and interacted with many colleagues from all across Central and South America, several of whom invited us to join their mission endeavors. One missionary, Larry, told us about his work in Guadalajara and invited us to visit and check it out. Dawn and I went down in October of 2001. It seemed like a perfect fit, and logistically, it made the most sense for us to move southwest within Mexico to this beautiful city. So in December of 2001, we packed up and hit the road. As a musician, my primary role on the Guadalajara team was in the area of worship at church and also teaching music at the new church-based Soli Deo Gloria Music Academy. I also had the privilege of preaching and teaching often, as well as being involved in many other church-based projects and activities. But I was recruited mostly for my musical training, so that was my main focus. I had already been leading worship in our churches in the north of Mexico for the previous 15 years, so I was delighted to join the worship team here and help plan, practice, and lead the worship services in both Spanish and English for another 15 years. As far as the music academy, I recruited some friends from church who were incredibly gifted musicians, and it was a wonderful blessing for me and my colleagues to be able to teach people, young and old, to play a variety of musical instruments: guitar, bass, drums, trumpet, violin, mandolin, piano, as well as voice lessons and even music theory classes. I even had a student who wanted to learn to play the bongos. Sadly, he had no sense of rhythm at all. My daughter Amanda was also a gifted musician and teacher and did such an amazing job with the many young aspiring musicians who came through our doors. We had regular recitals where our students would perform what they were studying for family and friends, performing as soloists and in ensembles to showcase what they had learned and the progress they were making. Training Christian musicians was a priority for me because music is an essential element of Christian worship. I have always been convicted that music is not a hobby or extracurricular activity or just a fun novelty pastime. Music was created by God and is commanded by God for His people for His glory. We always offered one free trial lesson, no obligation, and then had an interview with the student and sometimes a parent. When I asked what was their motivation for wanting to learn music, most kids shared how they aspired to become famous rock stars. Parents confessed that they wanted their children to learn because it would be good for them and make them proud. Neither of these reasons were my motivation for teaching music, and I turned away more than a few prospective students over the years. I told them the purpose of the school was in its very name, Soli Deo Gloria, to God alone the glory. I got a lot of blank looks with that, but some said, "Oh yeah, that too, sure, why not?" Eventually it became harder to maintain the bar that high, and we began teaching pretty much anyone willing to pay for classes. Every class then became an opportunity to be a witness for Christ, as we had many students, not only from the church, but from the local community as well. I always tried to be respectful of their time, since they were paying to learn music, not listen to me talk about the gospel. So just a few words and a short prayer at the beginning of each class were what I did to try to at least plant a few seeds. Though teaching music was rewarding in many ways, it was also often challenging trying to teach many students who didn't really want to learn and never practiced and never advanced much musically. I tried every possible tactic to motivate them: fun and games, praise and prizes, anything to generate excitement and enthusiasm for learning a musical instrument. I resorted to guilt trips, which never worked, and I often let my disappointment and frustration with them show. I confess that I got very tired of that. After about 5 years, I felt restless, like I could be putting my time to better use. I wondered if the Lord was leading me to do something different, I felt convicted that I wasn't really being a missionary, just a music teacher at a church. I wasn't going out and intentionally seeking to reach the lost with precious truth of the gospel. I don't usually like change. I prefer a stable routine and always tried to follow the notion to bloom where you are planted. But in this role at the church, instead of blooming, I felt like I was slowly drying up. Though I was going through the motions and doing my best to be a good teacher, I was to the point where I actually dreaded every class and just wanted the day to be over. I believe God gave me that sense of frustration to motivate me to go out and do something else. So in 2006, I transitioned out of the role of music teacher into a ministry unlike anything I had ever imagined for myself. My previous missionary experience had been mostly church-based, working mostly with other Christians. Now I was venturing out into unknown territory. I had never lived in a big city of millions of people before. What exactly was God calling me to do here now? You'll just have to keep listening to find out. Thank you so much for listening to this true story from Memoirs of Mexico. If you enjoyed this story, or if it was a blessing to you, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. That would be a blessing to me. I upload a new true story every day. If you like to read, you can also order Memoirs of Mexico in paperback or ebook on Amazon.com. There's a link in the description. Thanks again for listening.